What if nothing in your life is actually stuck until you keep staring at it like it is? Let that hit. Let it stir something in your chest. Because here's a truth most people aren't ready to hear. It's not your reality that's holding you hostage. It's your gaze. And the longer you keep looking at the pain, the longer it believes it's supposed to stay. You're not just seeing your life. You're feeding it with your attention, moment by moment, emotion by emotion. The observer effect isn't some distant physics concept. It's happening every time you silently repeat, "This is how things are, this is just who I am." But what if what you've been calling truth is just what you've looked at the longest? Pause. Breathe into that. See, observation is not passive. It's creative. It collapses potential into form. It turns maybe into matter. Your perception is not just watching, it's choosing. Choosing what version of your life gets to live. And every time you obsess over the problem, over the pattern, over the past, you're watering that version with your sacred gaze. That's why it's not enough to want change. You have to change the eyes you use to look. And no, this isn't about faking gratitude or forcing fake positivity. This is about reclaiming the most powerful spiritual faculty you've forgotten you had. The power to decide what becomes real simply by choosing what you observe with presence, with frequency, with emotion. So the question isn't what's true. The question is, what truth have I been unconsciously selecting again and again? And the moment you see that, really see it, everything changes. In the next section, we'll go even deeper into the emotional weight behind passive observation. Why feeling stuck or unseen is more than frustration. It's an energetic signal that your soul is still waiting for you to claim your role as the conscious observer. Let's unpack that next. The hidden pain behind passive observation. There's a kind of pain that rarely gets named, the pain of feeling like life is just happening to you, like you're awake, aware, trying, and still stuck in a reality that doesn't reflect the truth of who you are. But what if the most powerful truth was hiding where you never thought to look? Because here's what's rarely said. Passive observation isn't just a mindset, it's an emotional posture. A belief so deeply embedded that it becomes invisible. The belief that this is just the way things are, that this is how my story always goes, or worse, I don't get to choose how it unfolds. It's not your fault. You were conditioned to watch, to wait, to react. And somewhere along the line, you started mistaking awareness for power, as if noticing the chaos was the same thing as transcending it. But here's the fracture point. If you believe you're just an observer, you'll never realize you've been the one choosing what's being observed. Let me explain. You're not standing outside your life looking in. You're inside the lens. The observer is not neutral. It's vibrational, emotional. It's shaped by your past, your pain, your programming. So when you constantly observe through fear, life reflects fear. When you unconsciously expect disconnection, reality responds with silence. And not because you're broken, but because you're still tuning your gaze to the very frequency you're trying to escape. Pause for a moment. Really sit with this. Where in your life have you felt like a passive witness, just watching a cycle repeat? What emotion do you unknowingly bring to that observation? Dread, doubt, resignation. Because observation is influence, and you can't shift what you're still silently feeding with your focus. This isn't blame, it's initiation. You're not a victim of what you see. You're the creator of what becomes visible. Now let's go even deeper. In the next section, we'll uncover what quantum physics never told you about yourself. Not the science, but the soul-level invitation hidden in the principle of observation. Because you are not just influencing particles, you're sculpting your own becoming. What quantum physics never told you about yourself. Before we move forward, take a moment with me. Just breathe. Out of all the noise, out of all the content you could have chosen, you're here. You showed up for yourself, and that matters. So thank you. Truly. If this is speaking to something deep in you, let us know in the comments. Your experience might be the exact mirror someone else needs. And if this space resonates with your journey, subscribe, join the path. Here, we walk it together. Let's go further now, not into more knowledge, but into embodiment. You've probably heard about the observer effect in quantum physics, that simply observing a particle can change its behavior. But what no one really explains is what that means when the particle is your life, and the observer is your unresolved emotion. Science says attention collapses potential into outcome, but who chooses what your attention focuses on? You do, consciously or not. And what you don't realize is that your biology listens, your cells respond. Your nervous system isn't reacting to reality, it's reacting to perception, which means your body is not a passive vessel. It's an instrument that plays whatever melody your focus feeds it. Joe Dispenza speaks to this. That coherent intention, when combined with elevated emotion, literally shifts brain patterns, chemistry, and electromagnetic output. This isn't spiritual fluff. It's measurable, repeatable, powerful. But let's ground it. Here's a modern image. Imagine waking up and immediately scanning your day for problems. You check your phone, read something stressful, remember a conversation that didn't go well. Without knowing it, you've just told your brain, this is the frequency we live in. And now, your body prepares for it. Hormones shift, muscles tighten, thoughts loop. And by the time you leave your house, the world starts confirming the very story you woke up feeding. You think life is just happening, but really, your focus wrote the script hours before it began. Let that land. You're not at the mercy of observation, unless you forget that you're the one holding the lens. In the next section, we'll bring this even closer to home. We'll dive into the emotional pattern most people carry without realizing how the eyes, when shaped by fear, start creating the very thing they're afraid to see. The eyes create what they fear. You've seen it before, you just didn't know how to read it. You fear betrayal, and you start scanning every interaction for signs of disloyalty. You fear abandonment, and suddenly every silence feels like a threat. You fear being misunderstood, and so you speak in a way that already defends against judgment. What if your fear isn't just reacting, but selecting? This is the unseen loop of trauma, not just what happened to you, but how you learned to look. Because after pain, the nervous system doesn't just flinch, it observes differently. It hunts for what hurt, even in places where it no longer exists. And in doing so, it feeds that possibility until it becomes inevitable. You're not paranoid, you're programmed. But here's the part no one tells you, that programmed gaze is still a choice. Not at first, but eventually. Let me give you a concrete example. A person who grew up in chaos might crave peace, yet always feel unsettled when things go quiet. Their eyes have been trained to expect tension, so they unconsciously stir it up again just to feel familiar. It's not that peace isn't available, it's that their gaze hasn't learned how to recognize it yet. Bruce Lipton's research shows how sustained stress alters gene expression. Think about that. Your attention, when soaked in fear, can literally tell your body to prepare for what hasn't happened, and in doing so, invite it. This is why you can't think your way out of a loop created by feeling. You have to retrain the eyes, gently, slowly, repeatedly. Pause now. Breathe in with me. Ask yourself, what emotion do my eyes secretly expect to find? Because that's the emotion you've been quietly creating. We're going to shift that, but not with force, with presence. In the next section, we'll dismantle one of the biggest myths about the observer effect in spiritual spaces, why it's not about just thinking positive or avoiding the negative, but about integrating the full emotional lens you've been using all along. Myths about the spiritual observer effect. There's a dangerous myth that's been wrapped in light, that all you need to do is think positively, visualize better outcomes, avoid low vibes, focus on the good. And yes, intention matters, but only when it's whole, only when it's real, only when it includes the part of you that's afraid, ashamed, or still healing. Otherwise, your focus becomes a performance, not a transformation. One of the biggest misunderstandings in spiritual circles is that the observer effect is a permission slip to bypass pain, to close your eyes to what's uncomfortable, to ignore anything that doesn't match the high-frequency narrative. But let's be honest, how many times have you tried to affirm your way out of fear and ended up feeling like a fraud? It's because your focus isn't just mental, it's vibrational. And if you're still silently fixated on what you fear, no mantra, no vision board, no law of attraction trick can override that resonance. Here's the truth. The observer effect doesn't just apply to light, it applies to shadow, to what you repress, to what you flinch from. And if your unconscious attention is still tied to unhealed emotion, it will manifest regardless of how many times you repeat, "I am abundant." Let me give it to you plainly. You don't get what you want. You get what you observe with the most emotional charge. This is why spiritual detachment often becomes a disguise, a way of not feeling, not facing, not observing what really needs your gaze, and without realizing it, you feed the very thing you're avoiding with your resistance. Edgar Cayce once said, "The soul sees through all layers." That includes the ones you've been trying not to look at. The observer effect is sacred, but it demands honesty. It asks for your whole vision, not just the curated parts. So take a moment. What have you been pretending not to see? In the next section, we'll shift into a real-time practice, a three-step process to reverse your observational bias, to take your gaze off the familiar pain and bring it back into conscious alignment. It's not about forcing focus, it's about learning how to observe with integrity. The Observer Reversal Protocol, 3 steps. Here's the process. Simple, precise, powerful. This isn't a quick fix. It's a recalibration, a return to what your nervous system forgot it could do. Observe with intention instead of instinct. Here's how we reverse the habitual gaze that's been quietly feeding your reality. Step 1. Audit your focus. Pause now, gently, without judgment. Ask yourself, well, what do I check for emotionally every day? Is it disappointment? Is it rejection? Is it not enoughness? Because whatever you're checking for is what your attention is rehearsing. What you observe consistently becomes the lens, not just the moment. Let your honesty rise here. It's not about blame, it's about clarity. Step 2. Reverse the gaze now. Look where you've been avoiding. What truth have you been unwilling to witness? What potential have you quietly disqualified before it had a chance to emerge? This isn't about jumping to the opposite feeling. It's about interrupting the loop. If you always look for what's missing, pause and look for what's forming. If you always check for failure, check for proof of growth, no matter how small. Shift the direction of your emotional search. Step 3. Inject presence. Don't just see it, feel yourself seeing it. Let your body register that the gaze has changed, that you are observing from a place of curiosity, not control, that you are willing to see with fresh eyes, not just recycled expectation. Presence rewires the gaze. It says to the brain, this is safe now. This is new. We don't have to predict pain here. Pause here. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale slowly. This is not about fixing. This is about reclaiming the sacred role of the observer. You're not trying to force reality. You're allowing it to respond to your attention, clean, calm, and clear. And as that practice becomes familiar, so does a new kind of feedback. The world begins to shift, not because it changed, but because you did. Now we move into the depth of the realization that you are not just the one watching, you are the one creating. In the next section, we'll explore how the observer becomes the creator, and how your reality has been reflecting back not what's true, but what you've been emotionally confirming all along. The observer is also the creator. If you've come this far, thank you. Really, your presence here isn't just seen, it's felt. You could have clicked away at any point, but you stayed. You leaned in. That matters. That creates a ripple. So take a moment. If any part of this journey has resonated, moved something inside you, share it in the comments. Your voice might be the exact reflection someone else needs to remember their power. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Become part of a community where consciousness is sacred and healing is shared. Now let's go even deeper. You've been taught to see yourself as the witness, the one who notices, who observes, who becomes aware. But here's the unspoken truth. The observer doesn't just record life, it edits it. Every perception is a brushstroke, every emotional reaction a layer of color. You're not watching a canvas, you're painting it every single day. Reality doesn't respond to what you want. It reflects what you see, consistently, emotionally, energetically. Let me offer you an image, a mirror. You're standing before it, trying to change what's reflected without realizing. It's not a window. It's not showing you what's out there. It's showing you what's been repeated in here. And science is catching up. Even the CIA, in studies on perception and PSI phenomena, found that the way a person expects information to appear changes the data. This isn't fiction. It's field-tested. The observer modifies the outcome simply by how they show up. Now think of your life. Where have you been waiting for things to change without changing the lens through which you've been watching? Where have you been hoping for different feedback while offering the same frequency? It's not personal, it's perceptual. You're not just interpreting your world, you're authoring it. Let that sit in your chest. In the next section, we'll explore the most mysterious and empowering truth yet. That reality doesn't even fully exist until you claim it. We'll decode what that means and how your quiet attention has always held more influence than force ever could. Reality doesn't exist until you claim it. This is where it gets sacred. Reality, as you know it, is not solid. It's not fixed. It's not sitting there waiting for you to bump into it. It's fluid, it's responsive, it's listening, and until you observe it with presence, it remains potential. But what if the truth you've been seeking only exists once you choose to give it form? Let me give it to you plainly. Nothing is real until it's emotionally confirmed. You're surrounded by infinite versions of your life, infinite paths, outcomes, timelines. But the one that comes alive is the one you claim. And here's the mystery. You've been claiming unconsciously, through fear, through routine, through the weight of old stories told too many times. But what if you stopped repeating what's familiar and started selecting what's aligned? This is the true power of the observer effect. It's not about control, it's about congruence, about becoming energetically honest enough to say, this is the version of life I choose to animate, not because it's perfect, but because it's mine to witness. Let me give you a symbol, the oracle. In ancient cultures, the oracle wasn't just a prophet, they were a mirror. They revealed what was always there, but only after someone was ready to ask the right question. You are the oracle of your own existence. And the question is no longer, what will happen to me? It's, what am I willing to see into existence? This is not manifestation through desire, it's creation through devotion to a vision, to a vibration, to a version of yourself that stops waiting for permission and starts living with presence. Pause here. Let that echo in your chest. You don't need more clarity. You need more commitment to the clarity you already have. In the final section, we return full circle. You'll see why the observer effect isn't just a quantum principle, it's a spiritual remembrance, and why the moment you see differently, everything else begins to shift with you. The observer effect changes everything once you see it. You've been here the whole way, breathing with this message, feeling your way through it, and that means something. In a world of speed, silence is a form of power, and staying present, truly present, is an act of transformation. So thank you for your energy, for your willingness, for walking this path with me. Let's return to the root. The observer effect changes everything once you see it, not because it gives you something new, but because it makes you aware of what's always been yours. The ability to select, to sculpt, to affirm. To look at life and say, with clarity and calm, this is what I choose to become real. Ask yourself right now, with honesty, what am I ready to stop unconsciously observing? What am I finally willing to witness with love, not fear? You don't have to figure it all out. You just have to be willing to see with different eyes, not the eyes shaped by trauma, not the gaze trained by scarcity, but the vision of a soul that remembers its co-creative power. Because your reality doesn't shift by accident, it shifts when your gaze becomes sacred again. So if this message stirred something inside you, let it live. Type in the comments, I see with sacred eyes now. Let your words become a vibration that others can feel. And if you feel the resonance of this space, subscribe. Not because you need more content, but because you found a community, a field, a path. This is just the beginning. And remember, you are not at the mercy of the external world. You are the field that transforms what vibrates around you. What you feel is not failure, it's feedback. Every emotion is a vibrational key, and your energy is a language. The universe is listening. If you felt the call, walk with us, like, share. Breathe this message forward and let the next video guide you even deeper into the sacred design of who you truly are. The mirror is waiting, and this time, you know exactly how to look.